Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be trying to figure out where the Loyal 3 actually are from. When you're hearing about the backstory to Ogerpon and her connection to the Loyal 3, there is an interesting detail that I think a lot of people have picked up on, but in case you missed it, they basically say that news of Ogerpon and her human friend, their masks began to spread around the world, or at least wide scale, and it attracted good attention and bad attention. The bad attention, of course, being the Loyal 3 and their secret master. Now, it says these Pokemon then came to Kitakami, so the implication here is that they are not originally from Kitakami. So, the question is, where are they from? I have a number of thoughts on this. First off, there is the fact that the Loyal 3 actually could be from different regions. At the end of the day, the story of Momotaro, which is where the Loyal 3 are kind of taking after, is a story of adventure, right? It is a boy on a quest, so he's traveling around. And so, likewise, I think that there's a chance that the Pokemon that represents Momotaro, which is the fourth member of this Loyal 3 that we've talked about in a bunch of videos now, I think that this Pokemon's probably traveled a long way, so it's very possible that this Pokemon has come across the Loyal 3 over multiple different regions. So, hypothetically, Okidogi could be from Hoenn, Pheasantipiti could be from Unova, and then Munkidori could be from Galar. And that's actually kind of the first theory that I want to look at. You see, the thing about these Pokemon is we know they didn't always look this way. It says that Okidogi was once a weak Pokemon, Pheasantipiti was once a very ugly Pokemon, and Munkidori was a very foolish Pokemon. And so the toxic chain changed that. And given that it actually seemed to change the physique, so the appearance of Okidogi and the physique and the appearance of Pheasantipiti, I imagine it did the same with Munkidori as well, so these Pokemon may have looked nothing like what they do now. And I think there's maybe even a chance that these Pokemon are Pokemon that we know, and that's where we go to this theory of Okidogi being from Hoenn, Pheasantipiti being from Unova, and Munkidori being from Galar. If you look, the kind of face of Okidogi is very similar to a Poochyena, so perhaps a Poochyena was once, was the Pokemon that wished for strength and became Okidogi. So what we'd be seeing here is a kind of different form of evolution that we actually have seen before. This would be very similar to how it talks about how Diancie was once a Carbink that just underwent a lot of pressure and was able to become a Diancie. I imagine that's a similar thing here. The toxic chain allowed Poochyena to basically kind of evolve into a completely different Pokemon. That is this Okidogi Pokemon. And you may say, well, why can't it breed? Well, for one, since it completely changed, it's a different egg group now. And then also there is the fact too that it talks about how its body is affected by this toxic chain it wears around its neck. So there's also a chance that it's, DNA is literally poisoned, so it can't really reproduce. This thing has basically been exposed to a kind of radiation that's not going to allow it to have babies. So yeah, but yeah, Poochyena could be the Pokemon. It does talk about how Poochyena is kind of an all bark no bite Pokemon in a lot of deck entries. So maybe that's the case. Then if you move over to Pheasantipiti, well, it could be a Tranquil or maybe even a non-pheasant. These are Pokemon that are also pheasants, like Pheasantipiti, and, they're not the prettiest Pokemon. I would argue male on pheasant is a kind of pretty Pokemon, and we know Pheasantipiti is a male. So I would actually lean more towards it being Tranquil, but that would potentially place it in the Unova region. And then there is Munkidori. Munkidori has a similar, I guess, appearance or body shape to Thwackey. So this Pokemon could be a Thwackey from the Galar region. Now, there is, of course, a chance that even if these Pokemon are originally Poochyena, Tranquil, and Thwackey, they could be from different regions. There could be Thwackey that are wild in a Asia region that we haven't seen yet, and so that's where it is. And Pheasantipiti could be, from Galar, because there are wild Tranquil there. Poochyena, there are wild Poochyena in other places, I think. I think there's wild Poochyena in Kalos, at least Mightyena. So, you get the idea. These Pokemon even if they are these Pokemon, they do not have to be from the regions these Pokemon first debuted in. But the point is, they could be from all around, and they could indeed be based off these Pokemon. Another little point for Monkey Dory is it talks about being foolish, and, you know, we do see that Grookey has a very mischievous personality, so perhaps that still exists in Thwackey, and, you know, it hasn't yet evolved into Rillaboom, so, you know, it hasn't yet gotten a lot of intelligence, which is also kind of the interesting thing here about these Pokemon. You know, they tell a story if this is true about them. You know, Poochyena, if he just had a little bit of patience, he would eventually evolve into a Mightyena and gain a lot more strength. Now, albeit not as much strength as Okidogi, but still more strength. And then with Tranquil, well, if Tranquil had just waited a little bit longer, he would evolve into an Amphaseant. And again, the male Amphaseant, so a much prettier Pokemon. And with Thwackey, if he had just waited a little bit, he would have evolved into Rillaboom, which is a very highly intelligent Pokemon. So these Pokemon wanted what their evolutions were, and they took the easy way out, which is just a very important lesson. You know, I think it's kind of cool to have like a little moral there behind these Pokemon. But again, that's just one theory. It is completely possible. There's other Pokemon that have been proposed. I think a lot of people are really on board with Tranquil being Pheasantipity, but I've even seen people say Lillipup for Okidogi. I've seen people say Pampor for Monkey Dory. All of which I guess I could see. I think the argument with Pampor is just to kind of put it in Unova with Pheasantipity and with Okidogi if Okidogi is a Lillipup. But, you know, it also is blue like Monkey Dory, but it's a different shade of blue, so I'd say that argument's pretty thin. But yeah, I think that these Pokemon are probably from different regions, or, here's where we get into a really fun place, it's possible these Pokemon are from a region that we haven't visited yet, and their original forms are Pokemon that we haven't seen yet. I've got two potential possibilities from here. The first one is a China-based region, which, due to politics and, you know, geopolitics, all that fun stuff, there's a decent chance we would never see a China region. But, you know, let's dream a moment and say these Pokemon could be from a China region. The reason I say that is because, you know, all of these things can be found there. You can find pheasants in China. You can find dogs in China. And you can find monkeys in China. But also, and more importantly in my opinion, this Momotaro Pokemon is a peach. It is a peach Pokemon. And it is thought, while there's no confirmation on it, it is thought that the peach may have originated in Eastern Asia, specifically they think around like the China area. So potentially that would at least be where the Momotaro Pokemon was from, and I imagine he encountered the others either close by or on a long quest like the first theory proposes. Then we get to another possibility, which is a really fun thing to think about, and that is that these Pokemon are from really close to Kitakami. Kitakami is just a part of a bigger region. You know, we see that Kitakami has these roads that keep going, but you can't quite go past it. You know, it has a border, but not really, because there's a road that keeps going into another area, and I don't see any kind of, you know, border patrol system set up here. So I'm imagining there's more to this region. Specifically, Kitakami is based off of a part of the Tohoku region in the real world Japan. So I imagine that Kitakami is a part of a larger region that is Tohoku based. And I think that this is a region we could one day see. And perhaps in this region exists some Pokemon that, you know, might look a little similar to Okidogi, Pheasantipity, and Monkey Dory, and we just, you know, haven't seen them yet because we're in a part of that region where that doesn't exist. Very similar to how if I go to Glaciato Mountain in Paldea, well, I'm in the Paldea region, but I'm not going to be finding any wild Rellor up there, you know, even though that's a Paldean Pokemon. So this is kind of a neat way to recontext the Kitakami, the land of Kitakami, which is another thing too. They do say that you're in a new region. They never call it the Kitakami region or the region of Kitakami. They call it the land of Kitakami. So that to me again implies that it is a part of a bigger region. But this part seems to have, you know, a lot of past Pokemon, which a lot of regions do. And you may go, okay, well, why does this region have no new Pokemon? But it does. It has a wild Poltergeist and Sinistra that you can find there, and it even also has access to a new evolution for Applin, and that is Diplin. So those are just 2 common Pokemon that we can find in the Kitakami area. And again, that's not that crazy because, you know, there's a lot of spots like around Alfornata, you can really only find Wild Flittle as the only new Gen 9 Pokemon. There might be 1 or 2 others, but again, you know, just because you're in a part of a region, a new region, doesn't mean that all the Pokemon in that area are going to be new Pokemon, right? And I think that that's what we're seeing here with Kitakami. So maybe that's the case. Again, it says these Pokemon did not come from Kitakami, but that doesn't mean it didn't come from the same region as Kitakami. They could have just moved from the, like, next over county or the next over area and come into Kitakami. You know, again, we're talking about a long time ago, so I'm not sure how far the word about these masks would have spread. So it's possible that it was just, you know, Japan-wide. So the Sinnoh region heard about it, the Kanto region heard about it, the Johto region heard about it, the Hoenn region heard about it, and the rest of this Tohoku-based region did hear about it. Let me know what you think of this theory. Also, let me know which one you're a believer in, or if you have an alternate theory, let me know that in the comments below. I think, personally, I am leaning towards the idea of them all being from different regions. Okidogi being a Poochyena from the Hoenn region, Pheasantipede being a Tranquil from the Unova region, and Munkidori being a Thwackey from the Galar region, because I really like the idea of the Momotaro Pokemon kind of just traveling the world to, you know, gain these loyal Pokemon to it. And, you know, I think that's kind of cool to think that this Pokemon has its reach, has its chains, if you will, stretching all across the Pokemon globe. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss our future videos. When we get more information about this Pokemon, hopefully in the Indigo Disc, you know we're going to be covering it and having all kinds of theories about it. So you don't want to miss that. So again, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. And until next time, I'll see all of you later.